Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of LetsChat GP, the podcast where we share everything about life in Grande Prairie, Alberta. I am your host, Demar. This podcast is being filmed in the city of Grande Prairie and is brought to you with the kind support of TELUS STORYHIVE. If you guys do not know where Grande Prairie is a city located in northwestern Alberta, 4.5 hours north of Edmonton. It is a city with a population of approximately 67,000 people, and it is one of the most beautiful places you'll ever live. Take it from me. So in this episode, we're going to talk about 15 facts about living in Grande Prairie, Alberta. So I want you to sit back, relax, and be a part of the conversation. And I'm going to jump right into it. If you live in a community, there's pros and there's cons. And on this podcast, we try to share balanced perspective. So for persons who are looking to move to Grande Prairie, migrate to Grande Prairie, or even if you're living in Grande Prairie, you can have a realistic expectation of what life is really like in the beautiful city of Grande Prairie, Alberta. So as I mentioned, we're going to be sharing 15 facts that you need to know if you're thinking of living here or if you're already living in Grande Prairie, Alberta. Starting with number 1, outdoor recreation paradise. Grande Prairie is located in the prairies of Alberta, which means that it is surrounded by lots of natural beauty. The beauty in Grande Prairie can be majestic at times, and it is the perfect haven for persons who like outdoor activities such as camping, hiking, fishing, swimming, whatever it is. As long as it's outdoor, Grande Prairie will give you the perfect opportunity for you to enjoy and be one with nature. And a lot of persons live in Grande Prairie because of its natural beauty. Of course, like everywhere else in Canada, Grande Prairie has 4 seasons, and all 4 seasons will give you different experiences when it comes down to nature and outdoor activities. And this is one of the known facts about Grande Prairie, Alberta. Now, the second thing you need to know if you're going to be living in Grande Prairie, Alberta, and it is that Grande Prairie has a thriving economy. The economy in Grande Prairie is usually described as being recession-proof, and Grande Prairie is often described as the city of opportunities. Grande Prairie relies on industries and sectors such as energy, forestry, agriculture, and sales and service, creating a diverse job market. A lot of persons come to Grande Prairie for work, and that is just because Grande Prairie has a large energy sector. Oil and gas, you might know it as. That is one of the main industry here in Grande Prairie, and because of that, it usually leads to a thriving economy in the city of Grande Prairie. Now, the other thing you want to know about the city of Grande Prairie, if it is that you're looking to move to Grande Prairie or if you're living here, is that Grande Prairie is considered to be one of the most affordable cities, not just in Alberta, but all of Canada, as it relates to housing prices. Housing prices in Grande Prairie are a lot cheaper in comparison to the bigger cities. And not only in housing prices, but also the city is the perfect size. It's a medium-sized city. The population of Grande Prairie is estimated to be 67,000 approximately. And it takes you roughly 10 to 15 minutes to get across the town. So you're not only saving in your rent, you're not only saving in your mortgage, but you're also saving a lot in transportation costs as it relates to gas and car maintenance and all of those things. And I believe that because of those factors, it makes Grand Prairie a very affordable city for persons who are looking for an affordable city to live in. The other thing is, Grand Prairie is a family friendly community. Grand Prairie has excellent schools, numerous parks, and wide range of recreational facilities. So if you have a family, if and you're looking for a community that is family oriented with lots of things to do, Grand Prairie is definitely one of those places that you can consider for sure. There's a lot of parks in Grand Prairie. The largest park is the Muskosipi Park, but each community also has its own outdoor parks and stuff like that. And you have a lot of community schools in Grand Prairie. Now, the largest recreational center in Grand Prairie is what is called the Eastlink Center. And at this center, you are able to do a number of different activities such as swimming, basketball, tennis, whatever it is you're looking to do with your family, you can definitely find an opportunity for you to do it here in the city of Grand Prairie. Now, strong sense of community. If you have met anyone who have lived in Grand Prairie or who is living in Grand Prairie, you would find that they are so passionate when they speak about the city of Grand Prairie because there is such a pride and such a strong sense of community when you live in Grand Prairie. It's one of those places that when you move here, you automatically fall in love with the city. And that's just because it's so easily adaptable and you integrate almost seamlessly. Persons here usually like to welcome persons into the community, and that automatically create a strong community, a strong sense of community as well. If you're doing business, there's so many opportunities for business networking from the Chamber of Commerce, different mixers, where you can definitely come and meet other business persons within the community. Or if it is that you're looking for social groups, there's no more different social group volunteering opportunities. Generally, there's just a strong sense of community here in the city of Grand Prairie. Number 6 on our list, growing city. Grand Prairie is rapidly growing with a vibrant and dynamic atmosphere. And a large part of Grand Prairie's growth is due to immigration, and a lot of persons realizing that there is actually a lot of opportunities in Grand Prairie. So Grand Prairie is growing, and it is growing pretty quickly. Over the past 5 to 10 years, the population has been steadily increasing, and Grand Prairie is quickly en route to becoming one of the more dominant cities in the province of Alberta. If you guys are still here, I hope you guys agree with me. But if you disagree with me, let me know just the same as well. Now, we spoke about the natural beauty of Grand Prairie, but let's talk about the 4 seasons that Grand Prairie has. Grand Prairie experiences all 4 seasons with distinct characteristics from winter, which, let's be honest, not my favorite season of the year, fall, second favorite season of the year, summer, which is my favorite season of the year, and spring, which is neither here nor there. But what I want to mention is that within all of these seasons, you're definitely able to find activities to do both indoor and outdoor, which creates a perfect ambience for you to enjoy the different seasons and all that comes with living in Grand Prairie. Another fact that you need to know about living in Grand Prairie is that Grand Prairie is a cultural hub. Grand Prairie has a rich art and culture scene which range from its live theater to its art and craft scene. You have different art museums here in the city of Grand Prairie. So if you're looking to enjoy art and being a part of a city that has a vibrant arts and culture scene, Grand Prairie definitely provides the opportunity for you to explore and be a part of that as well. So, at the beginning of this conversation, I spoke to you guys about the location of Grand Prairie, located in northwestern Alberta. But what we didn't speak about is how convenient that location is. And that is another fact about living in Grand Prairie. Grand Prairie is conveniently located in northwestern Alberta, which provides opportunity for you to access both urban and rural areas. So it is a perfect bridge, actually. Grand Prairie is a perfect balance between a large city and a small town. You get that vibe. But also, because of where it's located, you can Access easily urban centers such as Edmonton or rural towns such as surrounding communities of Grande Prairie. So the location of Grande Prairie is convenient for persons who want to experience the best of both worlds. And that is one of the facts that living in Grande Prairie will provide you the opportunity to explore both the urban areas and the rural communities. Now, another fact is modern amenities. Now, whilst Grande Prairie is a medium sized city and located a fair bit away from urban centers such as Edmonton, Grande Prairie has modern facilities ranging from its own regional hospital, which is the Grande Prairie Regional Hospital, a number ranging from a number of different infrastructure. Most of the major brands like Costco, Walmart, all of these brands are here in the city of Grande Prairie as well. And that makes it convenient for persons who don't want to live in a big city as Edmonton and want to stay in such a medium sized city. They still have access to modern amenities, lots of shopping opportunities, shopping mall, indoor play areas, movie theaters, all the things that you'd associate with a big city. You are able to find those modern amenities in the city of Grande Prairie as well. And that makes it a very, very nice community to live in. Another fact that you may not know about Grande Prairie is that Grande Prairie is a fairly diverse community. The population is growing and it's growing drastically, and that leads to a large scope when it relates to diversity. There are persons from many different communities that live in Grande Prairie, and Grande Prairie is a very diverse community. As we mentioned before, Grande Prairie is growing very quickly, and that is largely due to immigration and persons who realize that Grande Prairie is actually a land of opportunity. That growth has leads to a lot of diversity within the community, spanning persons from many different cultural background and ethnicity, and which leads to a various perspective and also traditions. So you have a number of different restaurant options, like you have Indian restaurants, you have Caribbean options, you have a number of different options that you can explore, and also it's just the opportunity to learn from other cultures and just be a part of different cultures. It's very present in Grande Prairie, and that is one of the little known facts about this beautiful hidden gem. One of the things that I always say is that there's no perfect society. And we've been speaking a lot about some of the good facts about living in Grande Prairie. But you may be wondering, what are some of the bad side of living in Grande Prairie? What are some of the challenges of living in Grande Prairie? And let's start with the elephant in the room, weather extremes. Now, Grande Prairie, based on where it's located, gets very cold throughout winter. It can get as cold as negative 45 degrees, which I've experienced myself, by the way. So if you're an immigrant coming to Grande Prairie, be prepared for harsh winter conditions, which is not unique to Grande Prairie because you're living in Alberta. You might have experiences of harsh weather conditions straight across the board, but in Grande Prairie, it tends to be pretty cold sometimes. So be prepared for that if it is that moving to Grande Prairie is on your agenda. The other thing I'd like to mention is that Grande Prairie has a limited nightlife. So if you're somebody who is very social, who likes to go out dancing, like to go to have fun, Grande Prairie does have a limited nightlife scene. And one of the things that I always speak about to my friends is that there is only a few places to go in the nighttime, and the few places that's here, they're usually the same kind of vibe. You usually get the same energy. You usually get the same kind of vibe wherever you go. So it's not like there's a lot of variation when it comes down to nightlife. And a lot of persons kind of feel a bit claustrophobic where that is concerned. I know a lot of persons, they come to Grande Prairie as immigrants, and then because there's not much nightlife or things to do for like activities outside of outdoors and family activities, they oftentimes leave for a bigger city. And that's one of the biggest challenge. And because of that, Grande Prairie is known to be somewhat of a transient society where persons come for work, they come to make some money, and then they tend to go into the bigger urban areas and so forth, so on. The other challenge that's in Grande Prairie is the crime rate. Now, you might have heard that Grande Prairie has a very high crime rate if you're doing any form of research, but the crime that happens here is really petty crime, but it's definitely something worth mentioning. There is a growing concern for the amount of crime that takes place in the city of Grande Prairie. So that's one of the challenges if you're moving here. And not unique to Grande Prairie per se, it's a growing problem straight across Alberta and straight across Canada as well. Also, you want to take into consideration that homelessness is also a concern and drug usage is also a concern in Grande Prairie. But also, again, I'm cautioning to mention that these challenges are not necessarily unique to Grande Prairie. Whilst it affects the community of Grande Prairie, it also affects other communities in Canada as well. So if you're moving to Grande Prairie, don't let that catch you off guard because it's absolutely one of those issues that you might have here. Now, another challenge that I personally have faced when I just moved to Grand Prairie, and a lot of you guys might face if you're moving to Grand Prairie, if you've lived there, is the feeling of isolation. The closest big city to Grand Prairie is 5.5 hours, and it all depends on how fast you drive. 5.5, 4.5 hours on a best in a best case scenario, but in truth and in fact, it can take you 5 or 5.5 hours to get to Edmonton. And that's a lot of time spent on the road. And because of that, a lot of persons don't usually take on the travel. They tend to stay in Grand Prairie and then they get a feeling of isolation. There is an airport in Grand Prairie, but the flights is only to Edmonton and Calgary, and there's not a whole lot of flights, and they're pretty expensive. So because of that, a lot of persons feel somewhat isolated or cut off from the rest of the province if they're living in Grand Prairie. And that's just one of the challenges that comes with living this far north in the province. Let me know what you guys think. When I decided to move to Grande Prairie, Alberta, I had no idea that there was such a city located in Alberta. My wife and I, we wanted to make the decision to move to somewhere new, and we only moved to Grande Prairie because we had family that was living in Grande Prairie. Now, when we got here, we were pleasantly surprised of how easy it was to integrate. However, we felt that the society was a bit slow paced for us, so we couldn't wait to get out of Grande Prairie. Safe to say that being here over the years, the city have really grown on us and grown on a lot of other persons. And now we find ourselves being ambassadors for Grand Prairie, Alberta. A lot of persons share the same sentiment. When you come to Grand Prairie at first, it might be a bit of a culture shock because it's a really slow pace medium-sized city. However, the longer you're here, the more the community really grows on you, and then you start to realize that this could be home. One advice I'd give to anybody who's looking to move to Grand Prairie is make sure that you're integrating in the community. Make sure that you're making friends and you're networking as best as possible. Because the more persons you know, the easier it is for you to not feel the feelings of isolation, the easier it is for you to feel home and to make Grand Prairie the place that you want to raise your family, do your business, and actually live a very successful life. If it is that you're not integrating yourself in the society, you definitely feel the feelings of loneliness, feelings of isolation, and the feeling of not having enough things to do. So my advice is definitely be involved in the community. There's a lot of volunteering opportunities in the community as well. Make sure that you take advantage of some of these opportunities to volunteer and be a part of the different groups that may be there to allow you to make friends and to socialize and to make sure that you are being your best version in the city. So for the second part of this episode, we're gonna be talking with Miss Natasha. So Miss Natasha is in the hot seat right now. We've shared a little bit about the facts of living in Grand Prairie and some challenges about living in Grand Prairie, but we're gonna be talking to a real life person who have lived in Grand Prairie and just to get some feedback. Natasha, thank you for joining me. Who is Natasha?
Natasha is young lady originally from Jamaica, migrated to Grand Prairie in 2019 with my family and love it ever since being
So
here.
we've been speaking a lot about Grand Prairie. Our whole podcast is centered around Let's Chat GP. We try to share things about life in Grand Prairie in general. When you moved to Grand Prairie, were you expecting Grand Prairie to be the way it was? Was there any shock that you got?
For me, coming from Jamaica, I was thinking that, oh, I'm going to a place where that have tall buildings. And I was, expecting skyscrapers and all of that. But when I was on the road coming from the airport, coming into Grand Prairie, I was like, where are the buildings? Where am I? Because this is not what I expected.
The Grand Prairie was very flat
It
in
was
terms of
flat.
structures and
Yes.
stuff.
Yeah, it was just
So,
one tall building. I'm like, okay, where are the others?
so were you disappointed?
No, I wasn't disappointed. I wasn't. It's just that it was fall, so the ground was there wasn't any green grass or anything. It was just like dull to me,
Um,
anyways.
so let's talk a little bit about your first couple months in Grand Prairie, right?
Hmm.
Looking back right now, what stood out to you the most throughout those first couple months?
First couple months is that about my impression about Grand Prairie
Yeah.
overall. It's just a slow city. It's just everything is just slow. You go to work. Yeah, it's slow. It's just a slow life. That's overall in Grand Prairie. That's the first impression.
Okay.
It's just slow.
So Grand Prairie is home right now.
It is.
What makes Grand Prairie home?
The slowness. Exactly. I have to go back to that. I've adjusted to the slow life or slow pace of the city. Everything is 15 minutes away. We have bought a house here. So I don't think we're moving anytime soon. We've bought a house here and my family love being in this city.
So if you should speak to anyone,
Mm.
an immigrant, or even somebody living in Canada, and they're thinking of moving to Grand Prairie, what advice would you give them?
Try and make friends when you come into the city. Um, get established, get your job if you can, get your apartment if you're coming in, or your house if you can buy one. But try to be involved in the community. Just don't stay to yourself. You'll feel isolated and lonely. Try to get involved with groups. Can it be a church? It can be like a volunteer group. Just try to get to know people. Yeah.
And from a personal perspective, and I want you to be very open and vulnerable
Hmm.
with me right now. What's the most challenging thing you've experienced in Grand Prairie?
So when I just got here, um, for me, I'm coming from a country that we have people that are friendly, like friendly. And if they're not friendly, you will know when you know not to talk to them. Coming to Canada or coming to Grand Prairie, I had the same mindset of yeah, everybody's friendly and you know when they're not wanting to talk to you. Here it's different. It's like people look at you and the first thing they see is my skin color, my experience, nobody else. I'm not talking from nobody else's experience, it's mine. My skin color and it's like how would I put it now? It's like you're shunned. You're shunned because you're black.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how do you personally deal with that feeling of you said being like, well, really and truly you feel like you're being judged
Yeah.
based on the color of your
Most
skin,
good.
but like how do you deal with that? Or is it something you're still dealing with, like, or have it just something that you've experienced specifically and
So
gotten over it?
I have experienced certain things and I've gotten over it. I realize that once you don't care about what once you don't care what they think or don't care about what people think or say, you're good. You just walk with your head high and you don't care. You just go. Um
So tell me a little bit about your family in Grand Prairie. What do they think about Grand Prairie?
they love it. My husband love it some days, not the winter days, but he loves it some days. Um we see it as home for now. It's like we don't want to move out. My kids, 7-year-old, 3-year-old, um, they love it as well.
So it's now 2040. It's now 15 years in the future because it's 2025. Happy New Year. It's 15 years in the future. What would you like to have seen in Grand Prairie by then?
Maybe another skyscraper, like another I building. I don't know, something different. Definitely like a overhead bypass for the train tracks. It is needed. More apartments being built so you can accommodate people coming into the city because there's a lot of people coming, but
Mm-hmm.
there's not much housing. So stuff like that. Oh yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned that more skyscraper
if it possible.
and more apartments going up.
Yes.
Do you see the population getting much bigger than it is right now by then?
If the opportunities are still here, yes, it will get bigger.
On part of Edmonton or not that big?
Mm, when you want it,
Next
2040?
15 years.
No, it's not going
Yeah. I realize because like Grand Prairie has a population of 67,000, Edmonton over a
to
mil.
million.
Not gonna be possible in
Oh,
15 years. So a few skyscraper might help
but
that though. And
maybe
also a few apartments
apartments.
might
Yeah, it would be
definitely.
nice if it. Yeah.
Okay. So so you have lived in Grand Prairie, for 6 years. And you have been to different cities in Alberta, for example. Now, what would you say is the biggest similarity between, like, say, Edmonton and Grand Prairie, or what would you like to see in Grand Prairie that you've seen in some of the bigger cities?
Wow. So in terms of bigger city, in terms of Grand Prairie, I think we'll need more resources because in the bigger city, you have access to more resources in terms of healthcare for kids with special needs. My 7-year-old is globally delayed autistic, and we still have to travel to Edmonton to get services, right? So that would be one of the things I would like to
Mm.
like come into
But what
the city.
about like infrastructure though? Like in the sense that, for example, like when you go to Edmonton, is it that you find that there's more things to do with your daughter there? Like from a like activity wise, that inclusive of.
Yeah, there's
Uh,
more inclusive things or inclusive space. For instance, the library. I took her to the library the other day, and there was a space, a sensory space that was able to calm her down if she was,
yeah.
having a tantrum or stuff like that. So stuff like that would be nice if it was here in Grand Prairie.
And it's very important that you bring up points like that because I myself am an advocate for neurodivergency and kids with and different abilities. Let's
Mm.
call it that. And one of the things that I always advocate for is more inclusion in the community. Like for example, when you look in the bigger cities, as you mentioned, the library has a sensory room,
Yeah.
and you have different events. Like you might have like sensory Santa events that goes on, and different
Or
inclusive activities
yeah,
that goes on within the general space. So those are things that you definitely consider would be beneficial.
definitely.
But how do you think like what can be done now to make Grand Prairie more in line with that, or where does it start?
It will have to start with persons in power basically, and then everything trickle down the
Mhm.
line where um if there's a policy or anything like that for events or for even parking spots, once it's trickled down from the people in power coming down, yeah, vampire will be
Okay, so it starts from a leadership perspective.
yes.
But also, I have to disagree with you a little bit as well because I also think it also starts on from a social perspective as well, where people in general has to be more open-minded and inclusive in terms of their mindset for persons in the community with different abilities as
Mm,
well.
I think then you will have to have more education so it starts with educating people about people with challenges in the
Hmm.
society. So if for me it starts from the head, it cannot be the social, because if I don't know anyone with special needs, I'm not going to be concerned or anything. If I have information coming in front of me on a regular, maybe I pay attention and say, okay, let's see what's happening here. But
That's fair. That's a fair point. And thank you so much for sharing that as well. Because like at the beginning of this conversation, I spoke a lot about the challenges, some of the challenges that exist in Grand Prairie, and probably I should have probably included that there's more space for inclusion and diversity, not only from a ethnic perspective, but also from a disabled and a neurodivergent perspective as well. So that's definitely one of the challenges that I would like to add to my list. And thank you, Natasha, for definitely taking a part of your day to spend with us here on Let's Chat GP, sharing so openly about your own experiences in Grande Prairie. Now, Grande Prairie is home for you. Any plans of leaving?
Not right now.
Not right now. And you did say you have no problems recommending Grande Prairie to any friends or
No
family
problem.
and stuff like that and so forth. So on. And I myself is no different. We are huge advocates for the city of Grande Prairie, and I share some of the facts that you need to know about living here in the city of Grande Prairie. But like everywhere else, know that there is no city that is exempt of its own challenges and unique circumstances. So you have to be prepared to know that, okay, then with the right mindset, you will get the right results. It doesn't matter where in the world you choose to live. Grande Prairie is absolutely no different.